This morning, we are moving in our walk through the Westminster Larger Catechism and what it says about the Ten Commandments. And we have now come to the fourth commandment, question 115, which is the fourth commandment, to which the Westminster divines answered this: the fourth commandment is, remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Thirefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. We read that commandment in Exodus 20, 8 through 11. Now, this is a command that most modern Americans, have no idea what to do with. And if any of us have thought about it at all, it is probably because we have read The Little House on the Prairie, about how Laura's father told how his father observed the Sabbath. I was looking at that last night. After walking to church, because hitching the horses was work, and sitting for a 2-hour sermon, never once taking their eyes from the preacher, kids. And then, when they had finished, they walked home to cold leftovers for lunch. And then, all afternoon, they were required to sit in a row on a bench and study their catechism, until at last the sun went down and Sunday was over. Or perhaps some of you may remember the blue laws in this country, some of the laws that surrounded the Sabbath. And you might be surprised to learn that some of those laws still exist. Like in Kansas, there are still alcohol sale restrictions on the books. And you Missouri people may think you're high and mighty because you can buy liquor on Sundays. You can't buy a car on Sunday, though, and we can. So, all this sounds strange and weird to us. How crazy were those people back then? And yet, do you think they honored the Sabbath? Did they set it apart? What about us? Do we set Sundays apart? Or just the first few hours when we are here? Are we just happy that we are not required to go to work so that we can go about all the other things we want to do? Or catch up on our homework, and you better not. That's a rule, at least in the Spratt house. No homework on Sundays. Oh, the burden. Or chores. The question I have is, maybe our employers have a higher view of the Sabbath than we do. At least they set it apart. We will get into what is required of us as Christians by the fourth commandment in the coming weeks. But this is what I want us to think about, to examine ourselves, and if we find sin, to repent. Have we forgotten the Sabbath day? Have years gone by, and the thought that this is the Lord's day and that it should be different may have never crossed our minds? Do we instead think of it as our day, a day set apart for me to do what I want? Do I think of Sunday as the day when I finally get to watch what I want to watch, when I get to play what I want to play? Do I get to serve myself? All too often, it is not the Lord's day, it is mine. And since we have failed to keep the Lord's day, let us kneel and confess this and our many other sins. So if you're able, please kneel with me, first praying privately, and then you will find a prayer of confession in your bulletin, and we will pray it together.